Hi everyone, my name's Donkey, and today we're back on the Python series. We're back on the dice rolling game, option 3 of the choices. Going over randomization, some function stuff, loads of little bits and pieces. So I just added main in here so we can test this. We're going to go and expand on this a little bit more because this is alright, this is all well and good, but it's not really a game yet. There isn't much to it, so what we're going to do is the first thing we're going to do is just make a loop. So we're going to do the whole thing twice, let's say. There's two ways we could do this. So there's one way which is the most makes sense, kind of the most to make sense, the one that makes the most sense. So I'll do it quick. Actually let's do 4 because we're going to loop twice in this scenario. For I in range 2, and we just whack this all in here, save it and run it, and we should see. There you go, it does it twice. This is all well and good, lovely, except from the fact that we want our totals to kind of add up and work over the whole thing. So if we set the total here, just outside, and then instead of doing equals, do plus equals, and here plus equals, and then we can just print this at the end of our loop. It makes more sense that way. Then we should see these are our two roles, our first roles, our second roles, and then the answer, or the total amount even that we'd scored. It's so well and good. We can roll this now as many times as we want. We could roll it 7 times, and if we were to do that, it would roll 7 times. So this is now a much more like getting towards a game. I'm just going to quickly demonstrate the other way of doing it, and the way we're going to start thinking things is, the way we're going to do it is if we roll 2 that are the same, then we lose the game. So until then we keep rolling and see how high a total we can get. Now this is where you can have 2 ways of doing this. First way, which I prefer, is we can use while true like this. It's an infinite loop. It does this infinitely. Now the other way, which is slightly mess with your head a little bit, is if you've got something like, I'll just write this out. For this one it won't work exactly at the moment. We could make some changes, but I'm just going to show you an example. So we'll call it a loop. So if we did something here, what we could do is we could then call itself. So like we'd call a normal function, but within the function. And this would effectively print hey infinitely. It's a bit of a weird way of thinking. But yeah, you could do that. That's another way of thinking. We're not going to do that though. It takes a bit more. It's not as nice personally, I think. So now we've got an infinite loop. Now if we were to run this, it would just infinitely roll dice. There we go. And there's no way of stopping it. But what I said is that if the 2 dice are equal, which we've already got set out here, then we're just going to stop the loop. So to stop the loop, it's exactly the same as in GameMaker. We use this little break, just like that. So now if we were to run this, it should roll a few dice. There we go. And then eventually we've reached 2-2, and it's decided, yeah, they're the same. We're going to stop. We don't add it to the score. Okay, pretty simple. But it's still not really a game. Why don't we add more players? This is my next idea. So the way, how I would start to code this is, I think, well, this is brilliant, but we could kind of split this into our own little function. Call it turn. So this is the turn of the player. And we could just copy all this in. and instead of printing, we can just return. And now we can delete this in the main and call it. So we can go player1 equals turn, player2 equals turn, print player1, print player2. So now imagine if we've got two players, what we're doing is we're running the code once, which gets a total for player 1, running this code again, which gets a total for player 2. If we run this, we should see it rolls. Player 2 was obviously very unlucky there and got like a 6 and a 5. But you can see there the two scores, 21 and 11. So these are the scores the players got. Now of course, this isn't really necessary. We can get rid of this, the print. We could add a little bit at the front saying one's score. I'm going to come back to this in a minute, so you'll see a problem here. So here's where the problem lies, so to speak. So as you can tell, this is underlined. We need something in between these gaps. Now we could use a plus. Now there's this is accepted at the moment. If we were to run this though, it wouldn't like it. The reason for this is because player 1 is set to turn, which is total here. Follow it all the way back. Total is originally an integer and it doesn't change anywhere else. So this player 1 is an integer. Mine you can hover over and it'll tell you. If we hover over this, it's a string. Now Python will only add two things together if they're of the same type. So in this scenario we can't add a string and an integer because they're of different types. What we can do is put a comma. Now what a comma does is it says we're not adding these, we're just putting them together. So this wouldn't work with numbers obviously, but in this case we're treating the integer as if it's a string. The other way of doing this is saying plus and then putting these little string bits around it, and that would convert it to a string, but that takes up more lines, so why would we do that? Now if we were to run this, we get two scores. There we go. Player 2 again was very unlucky. Yeah, you can see there player 2 wasn't unlucky this time. Well, not the luckiest, but he did manage to get 2 rolls, definitely. And you can see that this is how we can quickly turn this into a game. Now just quickly, because I like to make things a little bit more interesting, because this is all well and good, we've made our little dice rolling game, we've made it into a player based game. But what if we could change the number of players? So let's do an input, let's do num players, and set this equal to input, into the number of players, just like that. Now what we're going to do is a little for loop. We've done these before, it's going to follow the exact same pattern as all the other ones, but we're going to do it in range num players. So it's going to loop for the amount of players that we have. Now this is where it starts to get a little bit interesting. So we can delete this, because if we imagine we got rid of this and just copied this, because we were just setting them to equal, we don't need to call it again. We can set it just like that, and we're going to get rid of this because we're looping that many times. And this would in theory work if we were to run this now. Enter the number of players. Say we've got 4 players, although we need to make this an integer. Types are very important in Python if you've not understood that yet. After we run this, we should see that it would in theory work. Put in 4 players. There we go. These players are very unlucky there, clearly. If we were to run this again, hopefully they wouldn't be as unlucky. 7. Yeah, there we go. And this is all well and good, but we've still got this 1. This 1's quite inconvenient. We don't really want this 1. And it's quite handy in Python because we do actually have a variable here, I. So we're iterating using I. So I goes up each time in range num players. So it goes 1 or 0, 1, 2, 3, etc, etc. So what we can do here is if we comment delete the 1 even, and close off our bits either side, then we have code in the middle, and we can just drop in some commas and an I, which works exactly the same as this. It's not adding it, and it's just going to make it show what iteration we're on. So if we do 100, there you go. You can see right there, player 52's score 3, because this is going on the number that we're iterating on. So if we put in 4 players, this goes 0, 1, 2, 3, our I, and that increments each time. And this is all well and good. You've probably also noticed though there is another problem. We asked for 100 players and we've got 99. Now if we were to scroll up to the top, you can actually see player 0's score. So to fix this, we're just going to add 1. That's pretty simple. And now if we run this, enter the number of players, let's just do 5. Player 1 score, player 2 score, player 3 score, player 4 score, player 5 score. And now we can delete this and go back to the tutorial. And if we choose option 3, enter the number of players, 5, there we go. Voila, we've made a dice rolling game which can be used to maybe settle a score, settle some sort of bet between people in terms of random number generator. So in this case player 4 would win. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video. If you liked the video, remember to like, subscribe, or if you guys want to do, and I will talk to you in the next one.